Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to be a part of your very well organized and active summits. Um, as I joined the ninth summit, I wish to congratulate all of ASU for a good job done. Indeed, this year we have seen quite a number of engagements, webinars, and conferences that you have organized. And I think it's gone a long way to actually pull all of us together, particularly the youth of Africa. So congratulations. And Basu and all my other panel colleagues, I say congratulations and permit me to stand on already established protocol. The theme that I was supposed to be talking about today is how can young people, or how should young people engage as strategic partners to deliver impact during these critical periods. And I think that Basil had actually gone ahead to put across quite a number of the things I had in mind. Particularly, I wanted to draw our attention to the history of the All African Students Union and to ask all of us, why is it called the All African Students Union? Why is it not the African Students Union? There is a reason. And that is where I want us to learn from history. Because from history, it is clear that ASU did not start, let me put it that way, in 1972. It started way back in 1925 in the UK, where two West African students at the time decided that they were going to start a movement that can bring African students together. And that move that was started by Bankole and the colleague Solanke were actually in response to the needs of the time. It had to do with the fact that at the time we needed, as Bassi indicated rightly, to fight for our freedom, to fight for justice, to fight for our independence and our economic growth. It was a time that the people of Africa needed to demonstrate their relevance and their contribution in the grand scheme of global affairs. So these two students formed the West African Students' Union in the UK to fight against racism and colonialism and to push forward for independence. Eventually, we had the likes of Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, and all those great leaders of the time emerging out of the West African Students' Union. They decided to spread out, preach the gospel, and establish also branches in different regions. There were branches also in the Eastern African countries and many other places in Africa. Now, at the point in time when it emerged that we have really gotten some good leaders from this West African Students' Union who were championing the cause of independence in many different parts of Africa, it was clear that it was now time to pull the different splinter groups together so that we can have a common voice on the continent. And this was how, when those splinter groups were brought together, we got, in my opinion, the All African Students Union. Our predecessors were quite successful. Today, We are walking in their footsteps, and I want to congratulate ASU for a good job done. In recent years, we've seen a lot of innovation from your end. We've seen a lot of energy. We've seen a lot of advocacy coming from you, and that is great. But the question I ask is, beyond holding our governments accountable, what can we do? What would be our own contributions? What would we be remembered for as youth of Africa, as those our predecessors were remembered for the specific goal that they had put before them, to fight against racism, colonialism, and to promote and support and champion the cause of independence? Indeed, when we speak today, they left footprints, indelible footprints in the sands of time, which can never be forgotten or erased. The question is, what would we be remembered for? And how strategic can we be in garnering that solidarity as youth of Africa, together with other youth around the world, to leave also our indelible footprints? For me, the answer is clear. We have done a number or a lot of advocacy. We have done a lot of accountability, campaigns to hold our leaders and our governments accountable. But we can also contribute by actively leaving that footprints behind. The question I ask is, what lessons can we learn from the pandemic? One of the things I have realized growing up is the fact that a lot of the time we are slowed down by the fears and the excuses of not being adequately prepared, of not having enough resources, and a number of the excuses that hold us from taking the right action for the change we deserve and we want to see to happen. Now, when we look at our resilience and our response in this pandemic, it tells us that those fears are actually unfounded. Why? Because when this pandemic hit us, particularly for Africa, a lot of people did not know that we'd be able to rise up to the occasion the way we have done. Indeed, we have not been as strategic as we ought to have been, to have prepared ourselves well ahead for such pandemics, because we have already seen such epidemics happen like Ebola in recent times in West Africa. So as a people, to what extent were we prepared for epidemics and pandemics like that? And as Basu said, this is just the tip of the iceberg. What lies ahead may not be too different from what we are beginning to see. Uncertainty and change, rapid change, is going to be the order of the day, whether we are ready or prepared or not. And so it is for us to start thinking futuristically and start preparing ourselves for the task that is ahead of us. And if we have to do that and be successful, then we need to start believing in ourselves. Because many thought that Africans, with all due respect, were going to die like chickens and litter the streets. But there is some wisdom in our practices that we probably may not have as much confidence in as a people. When we look at the fact that we do not have provision of clean water, safe water in many